BCC. This is Jelena Ozegovich from the Center for Teaching Excellence. The purpose of this video is to show you how to create a grade book within Blackboard's Grade Center. And once you have this created, you can put in your assessment alignments very easily. So there's really two types of grade books that are used in Blackboard. The first one is kind of a straight points type of grade book, which for each assignment or exam or homework or whatever that you have, you create a new column, you denote in the column how many points that assignment or exam is worth, and then Blackboard kind of keeps a running total of all the points that have been created in the course. And that's a pretty simple type of gradebook. It's the default in Blackboard. The other type of gradebook that you can set up in Blackboard is referred to as a weighted total gradebook. And in the weighted total gradebook, this is where you create categories that make up your course grade. So an example of a weighted total grade would be something like this that I use for my Psych 101 course. So this is an online course. 20% of the student's grade is made up with discussion boards, 30% for writing assignments, 35% for tests, and then 15% for the final exam. And these percentages all have to add up to 100%, and that's referred to as a weighted category or a weighted total gradebook. So you can also do that in Blackboard. It's a little bit more complicated, but certainly the first part of this video will be showing you how to just do the points gradebook, and then the second part of the video is for weighted categories. So if you are just want to do a simple points gradebook, I'm going to show you how to do that very quickly. I'm going to get into a course. I'm going to pick this Blue Devil Faculty Academy because I don't want to pick a course that has students in it, obviously for FERPA reasons. So I'm going to click on that. This may or may not look like one of your Blackboard courses. I added this banner here and the customization, which if you want to do that, we can certainly show you how to do that in the Center for Teaching Excellence. So I'm going to scroll down into the control panel. I'm going to go to the Grade Center and click on Full Grade Center. And this is kind of the default that comes up in Blackboard's Grade Center. And so what I'm going to show you first is this total, which is the simple kind of points gradebook for Blackboard Grade Center. And so how you get this running total is you create a column for each exam or paper or homework assignment that you have. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to create a column. I'm going to call it Exam 1. Okay, I'm going to have it display as a score. Some people may choose to display it as a percentage. That's kind of up to you. It doesn't matter what category this is. That's for the weighted total Grade Center, but it does matter how many points this is worth. So I have to tell it it's worth, I don't know, let's say 50 points for this exam. I'm going to click Submit. And now I've just added my first category or column here, not category. I've added my first column in the gradebook. As soon as it does this, there we go. So now it created Exam 1. And you can see if you go to this chevron here and click Quick Column Information, Exam 1, it's displaying as a score. It's worth 50 points. I'm going to close that. Over here in this total, where the green check mark is, I'm going to click Quick Column Information. This is the total score, and right now I've only added 50 points in this whole class. So to keep getting more and more points, to keep the running total, I just go again to Create Column. Let's say I have, I don't know, homework assignment, homework number 1. This is again going to display as a score. It doesn't matter the category because it's a straight points, and this is worth, I don't know, let's say it's worth 10 points. Okay, so I say it's worth 10 points. I'm going to click Submit. Now it's going to create a new column right here. We called it Homework 1. Again, if I go to the chevron and click Quick Column Information, Homework 1 displays at a score. It's worth 10 points. Okay, so now if I go to my total here with the green check mark, Quick Column Information, now there's 60 points in this class. Okay. I'm going to show you one more column. Let's say I'm going to add exam 2. And in exam 2, this one I'm going to make this worth 45 points. So the first exam was worth 50, this one's worth 45. So that does mean that the first exam is a little bit more important in this course than the second exam, but that's kind of up to you as an instructor how you want to determine your points. So I'm going to click on that. And then again, it's going to create a new column. Here's exam 2. If I go back to total here, the green check mark, I see now there's 105 points in this course. Okay. So again, that's how you kind of keep adding more and more points, and that's really all there is to it. It'll just keep this total score, will keep a running tally of each student's points as you keep creating these columns. Okay. So and in another video, you can see how you can add the alignments to each of these. Basically, you just click on these chevrons and then you just say view or add alignments, and there's another video for you. I'm not going to go through that now. If you don't know how to do that yet, there's a really short 3-minute video also on this KCKCC Center for Teaching Excellence videos on how to add those alignments. All right, so that's it. If you just use a straight point total gradebook, that's all you really need to know. You may want to manage this a little bit. We can, because you're not using the weighted total, you're just using a total, I can show you how to shut that off. You go to Manage, Column Organization, and here I tend to hide a few things. I don't need to know what the student's username is, so I usually hide that. I don't really care if they're for their availability. That's not really very important. And then I don't, because we're not using the weighted total in what I just showed you, just the total, I will check that. So then all these things, I'm going to go down here and say show hide. I'm going to hide those columns, and you can see now these are hidden, hidden, hidden. I click submit, and that weighted total now is gone, as is the availability and the user ID. So I got rid of all those things. So if that's, you just use the straight points, you can stop watching the video. For those of you that use a weighted categories, remember that's this type of gradebook where you have percentages within each category. Now I'm going to show you how to set that up in this Blackboard. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these assignments that I added, just so I'm going to clean everything up and kind of start back with a clean slate, just so I'm not confusing anyone. I'm going to get rid of all that stuff. I'm going to go back here and turn back on the weighted total, because that's what we want to do right now. So I'm going to show that. All right. So now we're back to the kind of original. Now I want to show you how to create a weighted total gradebook. So if you remember, these are my 4 categories, these 4 things. I need to make sure that those 4 categories exist in Blackboard. So I'm going to go back to Blackboard. I'm going to go up here to Manage, and then I'm going to go here to this Categories column. I created these earlier, so I'm going to delete these out here for 1 second just so I can show you how to create them. These things, without the boxes to the side, are the default that Blackboard provides at KCKCC. So I'm going to use this test one that exists already, and I'm going to use this discussion one that exists already. But what I still need is the final exam one, and I want the writing assignment one. So I'm going to go up here to create category. I'm going to write in writing assignments, because if you remember, they're worth 30% of my grade. Now it just created it right here, and I'm going to create another category for final exam. Okay, click submit. So now I have final exam. So my 4 things that I need is discussion, final exam, test, and writing assignments. So I'm going to click OK. So now I'm going to go to this weighted total here, and I'm going to edit this so I can tell it how much each category is going to be weighted. The first thing I'm going to do is I like to display for the students. So weighted total sometimes doesn't mean anything to them. So I usually write in course grade. And then they can understand, okay, this is my course grade and that's what it displays. The other thing I do for my students is I write in what the weighting is. So discussion boards are worth 20%. Writing assignments 30%. Tests 35%. And final exam 15%. So the total equals 100%. So that's just kind of a courtesy that I write in for my students. Typically, this should be displayed as a percentage because Blackboard is going to calculate the percentage for all those things in those categories. So now here's where I need to tell it what it needs to calculate. So I don't have to worry about this columns. That was in the other gradebook. Now I'm worried about the categories. So if you remember, my first category here in the list is test. So I'm going to pull that over. So I'm going to click here and then I'm going to click to this little arrow. And I'm going to tell it how much it's worth here in a second after I get everything pulled over. I used discussion, if you remember discussion boards. Then I created writing assignments. I'm going to pull that over. And final exam, I want to pull that over. So now I'm going to tell it how much each of these is worth. So if you recall, discussions is worth 20%. Writing assignments are worth 30. Final exam was worth 15. And the tests are worth 35. And you can see right here when I add 35, this total weight goes up to 100%. The other thing that's kind of cool when you use this type of gradebook is you can drop a low score. So for example, I'm annoyed by makeup tests. I don't like to give makeup tests. So I tell my students on my syllabus, I will drop one low exam score. So how that works is using this, after they've taken their second exam and there's a grade that exists on Blackboard, I go back in and I click this button that says drop, and then I add one low score, and then I'll hit submit. And I have to do that after there's 2 test grades, because if you do it before there's 2 test grades, then it's going to drop the only score that they have. So you have to wait and do it after. The other thing that you can do that's kind of cool is you can tell it whether you want it to weight the columns equally or proportionally. So if you recall in my first example, I had a 50-point exam 1 and a 45-point exam 2. If you want it to be equally, then this will take those 2 exams and weight them equally, even though exam 1 was worth 5 points more than exam 2. Or you can have it weighted proportionally, which would mean that it gives exam 1 a little bit more weight in this category because it was worth 5 extra points. And again, that's your prerogative, how you want to do that. Once that's set up and it equals 100, this, you probably need to keep all the defaults that are there. You definitely want to show this to your students. I tend not to show the statistics or averages, but that's kind of up to you. You're going to click submit. And now, when we go to the gradebook, you remember I instead of calling it weighted total, I called it course grade. Here's what it comes up. And now, each time I add an item, I'm going to go to create column. So now here I have exam 1. Okay. It's going to show as a score. This is where it's very important. You need to tell it what category. Remember that was in my test category. So then I'm going to put in 50 points. I'm going to click submit. And now it's going to use that exam and give me a course grade with that. I'm going to create another column. This one I'm going to call exam 2. Again, I need to tell it what category to put it in, which is test. And this is the one, if you recall, I made 45 points. So there's, now I've just added that one. Now I can create another column, for example, for a writing assignment. Let's say paper 1. Okay. This is, again, needs to go in the writing assignments category. This one, let's say I'm going to make it a 40-point paper. And here, if you want to add a rubric, there's another video on how to do that. I would highly recommend that. It makes grading much easier. But that's basically it. Once you do that, you will have a total score in the course grade, and